Hey guys, I just had a talk with my MAGA neighbor, and the conversation did not go very well. Did not go very well at all. The guy was doing some work. I hired him to do some work, and somehow we got to talking about politics. And one of the craziest things that came from that conversation was in the middle of the conversation, he says to me that I'm a registered Democrat. Now, guy looks to me like a classic type of person that right-wing media would pander to. Trump in particular would pander to, right? He definitely fits that kind of a profile. So I'm looking at the guy, I'm hearing the kind of things that he's saying, and I'm getting a very right-wing vibe from him. And then he says, I'm a registered Democrat. And you know what? Things are so crazy in this country that I actually thought that that was a legit thing that he was saying. I thought he was legitimately a Democrat, but maybe a little bit of boomerish. So, he gets caught up in that the left has gone too far type of stuff. And he did kind of say that. But ultimately, a liberal, which I wouldn't be surprised at. Again, initially comes across conservative, MAGA type, but then he says, "Oh, I'm a registered Democrat." I'm like, I could see that, right? Because there is the reality, that I live in, the real world, and then there is the online stuff, and it's not quite the same thing. When you actually deal with people in the real world and talk to them about what they're actually concerned about and what they have problems with and what they want, you find that a lot of people are on the same page. If you get caught up in the social media and all the nonsense, our toxic politics, then it's it's a divide, right? Oh, you got the right wing and the left wing and blah blah blah, right? So, like he mentioned things like we got to take money out of politics. Politicians, they're just corrupt. They're all corrupt. And he even talked about some stuff about capitalism that, it's kind of broken, right? So he's saying capitalism is broken. He's saying take money out of politics. And I'm like, okay. And I'm in a very blue area. So even though he came across kind of MAGA type, I'm listening to these things and I'm agreeing. I'm like, yeah, get money out of politics. Then he says he's a registered Democrat. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And I was going to make a comment about it. And he starts laughing. And then he says to me, he says, do you know why I do it? This is why it's nice to touch grass and get in the real world, right? Because all the rhetoric you hear online, that's one thing. Here I am in the real world. A guy telling me he's a registered Democrat, coming across like a MAGA guy, telling me he's a registered Democrat, and me believing him, and then him laughing and asking me, do you know why I register as a Democrat? I said, why? To fuck with their primary. So, this guy has openly admitted to me, someone that he just met, that he is basically openly manipulating elections. I mean, obviously, he can only do so much just as one guy, but still, he's intentionally trying to mess with the Democratic primary as a person who's clearly a Republican. Now, this is just one guy, but how many other people are doing such things? Like, there was all this talk about stealing the election, Democrats are going to steal the election, whatever. And when it comes down to it, case after case after case, it was Trump voters that were arrested, charged for election fraud, right? I'm not even talking about the stuff that most of you have heard about, right? All this stuff, let's say Trump people or Trump allies. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about people that weren't even a big story on the news. People all across the country in different states that got busted doing election fraud. And I would say 90%, if not more, were Trump voters, right? The very people that are complaining about election, whatever, every single time almost You have a few little, Democrats here and there, but it's like Republican voter, Republican voter, Republican voter, voting twice, playing games about where they live, right? They're the ones, oh, Democrats are trying to bring in immigrants so they could vote for them, and the Democrats are going to flip the ballots in a vote machine, and all this talk, right? Little on evidence, little on actual, like, here, they did this, they did that. Obviously, you have people that made a ton of money. I'm going to make some movie about how, what was the thing, mules, something mules or whatever. Right. So people are grifting and making money off of, oh yeah, I'm gonna find the fraud or whatever. But meanwhile, who was doing it? Like, forget about the social media. Let's talk about real life. Again, you got the social media, you got real life. Social media, it was all Democrats and they were trying to steal the election, blah, 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 blah. In real life, it was Republican voters, right? And it wasn't all this drama. And again, it wasn't something that went viral on social media, whatever it was. It was simply people committed fraud. And because our elections are very secure, they're not perfect, but they're very secure, they get busted, right? The signature didn't match or whatever it is didn't match. And we caught them. And every single time, almost, it's Trump voters, Trump voters, Trump voters. But anyway, here's a yet another fraudulent thing. I mean, and think about the fact that he would tell me that. I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily criminal, so it's not like he's like admitting to a crime necessarily, but I don't know that I would, like, let's say I was doing that. If I was voting in the Republican primary to screw with their stuff, I don't know that I'll be mentioning that to somebody I don't even know. But he felt comfortable telling me this, right? So beyond that, from me talking to him, I see Trap Phone is in the house. Trap Phone is in the house. If you just joined the live stream, go ahead and click on the like button for some support. So other than that, the guy pretty much believes. You could tell what he was, what kind of content he was watching, right? It was the equivalent of me talking to someone and everything is like racist, this is racist, that's racist, and it's white supremacy, whatever. Da, da, da. And don't get me wrong, those are valid things, those are actual issues in this country. However, typically, if I find somebody hyper focused on that, I can pretty much assume that this is a Young Turks viewer, right? It's a Young Turks viewer or it's an MSNBC viewer, right? That's where you have people that are just obsessive about the racial issues that are very serious, and that there should be a conversation about it. We've made a lot of accomplishments, but there's legitimate things happening, right? I mean, it's serious crimes that are happening that are racial related and not racial related, but I mean, it is a real deal. But again, there is the real world and then there's the social media, right? So in the real world, racism is a thing, right? And I'll give you a classic example. I am not one to pull the race card, right? If somebody does something wrong to me, or I feel like something fishy, I applied for a job and there was something going on, my first go-to is the person's just an asshole, right? That's me, right? My first thing is they're just an asshole, because I know you don't need skin color for people to just be assholes. But that being said, it's not that I'm afraid of the potential truth of any kind of racism. If there's something legit, I completely acknowledge it, right? But I need some solid evidence. I'm not just going to jump to conclusions. So there have been a couple incidences where I highly suspect it was race related, right? Like the multiple times. So I was living in a very safe neighborhood for a very, very long time, and low crime, small neighborhood. And I had the police called on me. I don't know, man. It was, I think 3 times, 2 to 3 times, and it was all like nonsensical. One day I was doing a video by a roundabout near my apartment, and it was a instructional video. So I just had my camera set up, and actually, I'll tell you what it was about. I was actually doing a training video on how to drive a manual transmission. I was explaining the manual transmission. So I had like 2 discs in my hand, and I was showing how the clutch engages or whatever. And harmless. It was just me and my tripod in a roundabout, quiet neighborhood. No one's, no noise, no nothing, right? All of a sudden, the police show up. Actually, after I had left, I'm on my bicycle, my slippers, right? And it's a safe neighborhood. My door is open. I have my back door open because, like, that's. I mean, that's probably not, never a good idea, but it's that kind of a neighborhood where people feel comfortable, right? So my door is open. I'm in my slippers, and I got pulled over on my bicycle. Why did I get pulled over? Oh, somebody called in and said suspicious guy or something like that. Something stupid, right? There was another time I pulled my bike, I stopped my bike in front of somebody's house, and I was checking my phone for something or whatever, and I could just tell, man. Like after a while, I got to understand that this kind of stuff happens, right? It's actually legit. Back in the day, I thought that people that had these trouble, it was their fault, right? I was very ignorant, and I had, ironically, a kind of a boomer attitude where I'm like, look at how you're dressed. Well, of course they're stopping you, like as if you don't have a right to dress how you want to dress without being harassed. But anyway, that's how I thought. I thought you look suspicious. Of course they're gonna pull you over. They're not pulling me over. That was me, right? So I get it, man. I was that guy, man. I was very bigoted, and I thought like that until I got my wake up call. I actually had another incident where my motorcycle broke down. I'm waiting for a wrecker truck, and all of a sudden, this is before I had any of these incidences. I was still in full blown, oh, well, I don't have any trouble. And, when the police pull me over, I'm respectful. I'm respectful to them, and they're respectful to me, and everything's cool. And how come I don't have any problem? Why is it always you? Maybe it's something that you're doing, right? That was me, man. I'm embarrassed to say, but cop pulled up, and I'm thinking he's coming to help me because I was back in those days when I was thinking that way. And he starts like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Hey, my bike broke down. Never looked at the bike. He had no interest in checking out my bike or seeing whether my story was true or not. Then he says something about, was I doing graffiti? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like 30 something years old, like 33 years old. I'm dressed up. It's like 7 in the morning. I'm on my way to work. Like, who's doing graffiti? What 33-year-old guy is up at 7 in the morning on a weekday, dressed? I'm wearing, I got my biker gear, but I mean, I'm like dressed up underneath, right? You can see, well spoken, I'm being polite, whatever. And he's talking about graffiti. What are you talking about? Anyway, long story short, when he asked me for my ID, he put me in handcuffs. That's the first time I was ever put in handcuffs. Like, what was that about? Like, who called the cops and said I was spraying graffiti when I'm just there waiting? Like, how many? I know there's lots of assholes in this country, right? But this is a lot of assholery, right? I think some of these incidences might be skin related, right? But I, more often than none, will go to, this person's a jerk, this person's an asshole, right? But the reality is that it's big business to do race baiting, right? Every day you look for some video, some guy use the N-word or whatever it is, or some cop shoots someone, and then you just make a presumption with no evidence that, hey, it's a racist cop and the cops are racist. And again, it could just be an asshole cop. Like, one of the big problems with police is power. They think that because they got a badge or whatever, they're like above everyone else, and you got this thin blue line, BS. So I could be a cop and get into that culture and have no issue with race whatsoever and be a complete asshole. Whether you got brown skin or pink skin or whatever it is, doesn't matter. But of course, certain people, if I, as a cop, have pink skin and I ever am an asshole to someone with brown skin, you got the Young Turks type people. I mean, Young Turks have gotten away from that more. They've let Dr. Rashard Ritchie take up that role. So if I have pink skin and I'm an asshole cop, I can do bad to a bunch of people and maybe it doesn't get coverage, right? But the minute I shoot someone or do something bad to someone with brown skin, oh, there's a racist cop, whatever. Like, now, if you got evidence that the guy's racist, fine. Like, call him out, right? I have no problem with that. But again, there is reality and then there's the online deal, right? So this guy, it's like every right-wing talking point, right? He says, so for example, he was talking a little bit about, this bill, right? Oh my goodness. Let's talk about the bill. So the guy says to me, I'm not even going to say the name of the bill. Like, it's so childish. I'm not even going to repeat the name. Me as a white Christian man for Team Trump are happy to see colored people like, oh my goodness. Anyway, so so he said, so we talked about the bill, right? And you know what bill it is. And he, gotta love it. He's like mocking the liberal news rhetoric about, ooh, they're adding trillions of dollars to the debt. Oh my goodness, trillions of dollars to the debt. And he's like, but do you know what it is? It's over 10 years. They're acting like it's right away, but it's over 10 years. So I was the right one for him to come with that BS. So I said to him, because I already told him before, I said that whether you're watching left wing media or right wing media, the tactic is very similar. They both will highlight parts of reality that supports their rhetoric or whatever is profitable. More so on the right. I didn't say that to him, but it's more so on the right than on the left. But ultimately, that's what they do, right? So it's not just about what they tell you, it's what they don't tell you. If you're watching Ben Shapiro and he's telling you, hey, Trump did this and da 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 da, you have to ask yourself, what is Ben Shapiro not telling me? If you watch Young Turks and they tell you, oh, Trump did X, Y, and Z, and it's like, okay, that sounds pretty bad, but you got to ask yourself, what are they not telling you, right? So he says that they are acting like it's trillions to the debt, and it's actually, it's 10 years. And I said, you see, that's exactly what I'm telling you about. What I just said about how they tell you what's convenient for the narrative. I said, they just flipped the 10-year trick the opposite way for this bill. I said, do you remember something called the Build Back Better bill? Right, let's get into it. Do you remember the Build Back Better bill? So they had this bill that was specifically, and we're not talking about how good the policies would be or how genuine of an effort it was, or put that aside. The bottom line is the focus of Build Back Better was to help regular people, poor and middle class. It was to rise as many ships as possible. That was the purpose of it. Again, you could say bad execution, you could say the policy ideas had problems, but the fundamental thing was that bill was for we the people, right? So, as always, whenever there's something that is for us, it's a big problem and people get angry and, ooh, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? Oh, the bill and the debt and the debt and the this and that. And what did they say? They said, trillions of dollars. Where are we going to get this money from? You know what? The Build Back Better, a lot of that spending was over 10 years, right? So you had the Build Back Better bill that was trillions of dollars over 10 years or over a long period of time. But in that moment, they didn't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about over 10 years. They just want to talk about this big, scary number. Trillions of dollars to the debt and how we're going to pay for it. But now that there's a bill that's not for we the people, it's a bill with tax cuts for the rich and carve-outs for corporations, a wealth transfer from the poor to the rich. Like, this bill in no way is a focus on poor and the middle class like the Build Back Better was. This is a bill for the top 1%, right? So in this case, now we want to talk about, oh, 10 years. It's 10 years, guys. Don't be ridiculous. It's adding to the debt, but it's spread out over 10 years. Build Back Better. Oh, $1 trillion. Where are you going to get that money, right? A bill for the people. Where are you going to get the money? Where are you going to get the money? A bill for more money for the Department of Defense. Oh, well, we got to defend ourselves. And, if you don't get more missiles than the other country, let's do a bill that's going to help so that poor people can stay in their homes. Where are we going to find the money? Where are we going to find the money? Oh, my goodness. It's over 10 years. Where are we going to find the money? Right? You do a bill for the 1%. It's fine. It's just going to be 10 years, man. It's not right away. I mean, it's adding to the debt, but it's adding it over 10 years. Unlike Build Back Better, which was the same thing. Right? Very dishonest, very manipulative. And what's the other thing he said? He was talking about the bill, and then he was talking about, obviously, he kept talking about the Biden letting them in. And this is another thing, and I had another neighbor tell me the same thing. So, again, it's nice to talk to real people and hear where their heads are at. And this has been a repeated theme. right? And I wasn't even aware of this because this is just a minor detail. This is one of the skills of right wing media. You take a minor detail and you keep talking about it over and over again, and you make it this big thing. So the minor detail that this guy talked about and my other neighbor talked about another time was they talk about how Biden was encouraging people to come on in. Like he let them in and he said, "Come on in, everybody." Of course, I don't even remember this because he said some stuff kind of like that, like way in the beginning. I think it was actually on the campaign trail, so he wasn't even president yet. So of course he's pandering to the liberals, right? So he talked a good game, man. Oh, we're gonna do this and whatever. I know the borders, what's a border and blah, whatever. So he says some stuff like that, right? That's in the beginning. Then he gets to be president. The border's out of control, and then he and Kamala are like, don't come, guys, don't come," and he's deporting people. Was he? And he had the Haitians. They had them with the horses and all this kind of stuff, and he's just sending so many people out. He deported so many people that Donald Trump, one of the reasons why he's been going crazy with trying to get the numbers up is because he's like, all this talk, and I get into office, I can't be deporting less than Biden was, which he was in the beginning, right? So he comes in, he's deporting less than Biden was. So now he's like, we got to get the numbers up, and he's putting these quotas out, and he's pushing them, and now it's like, we got to go to the schools, we got to go to the Home Depot. So at first it's like, get the criminals out, but that takes too much time. And Trump feels embarrassed because Biden actually was deporting more. Obama was a deporter in chief. Like the reality versus the politics, right? The reality is Obama deported more people than anybody else, right? But now he's president. The reality is, again, he doesn't care about this stuff. Trump doesn't care about the border and securing the border or whatever. So it's all a game. But the numbers were too low. So now he's like, whatever, we got to get more out. But the point is, these people, my neighbors, are telling me Biden let him in. And so, again, Biden in the beginning made some like friendly stuff about coming in, and then he flips on that, like Kamala. And it's interesting because one of the attacks that they give on Kamala, who I do not like, Kamala was a joke, but whatever. One of the attacks they give on her is how she flipped, right? You were saying this, and now you're saying something else, right? Well, part of that flip was she said, "Don't come," right? But I talked to my neighbors, and they want to go all the way back to 2020. That's all they want to talk about. And that's the beauty of right-wing media, right? You take some statements that they made initially, so they could say 100 times, "Don't come to the country, stop." Biden had like 10,000 National Guard troops to the border. My neighbor, he's like, no, he didn't even know about that, right? He only knows what the people who he listens to are telling him, and they only tell him what is convenient to the narrative that's most profitable. So he's aware of everything negative about Biden. He doesn't know anything positive about Biden. Me, since I live in reality, I know a lot of stuff negative about Biden, and I know good stuff about Biden. I know a lot of negative stuff about Trump, and I know some good stuff about Trump. Now, it's not much good stuff, but I know the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? But if you're listening to the media, right, in terms of especially independent media, but, mainstream media as well, all you're going to be getting is, how much the liberals suck and how much Biden sucks. So Biden said one time, I'm not saying literally, but he could have said one time, right, before he got elected, hey, if people want to come to the country and, seeking a better life, they should be able to. And then never say that again. He could have been, since then, he could have been more aggressive than Trump. He could have been literally more aggressive than Trump. But what would right-wing media be doing for the 4 years of his presidency? Even if he was more aggressive than Trump in his rhetoric, in his actions, all they would keep saying for 4 years is, Biden said, come on in. Biden, he's open borders. Open borders. He's open borders. What do you mean he's open borders? He said for them to come in. 2 years go by. He said let them come in. All the while, Biden could be like, don't come. And he's literally shooting people at the border. But what will the audience hear? They hear Biden had to open borders and he said let him in. He said let him in. 10 years from now, Biden said let him in. Like, he could literally for 10 years be the biggest border hawk that we ever seen in this country. But yet half the country will believe the opposite because, again, all they'll hear is not what Biden is actually doing. They'll hear that Biden has open borders. He's letting people in. He's bringing them in so that they can vote for the Democrats and all this kind of stuff. And if every day you're hearing this from Ben Shapiro, from Steven Crowder, from some random guy on Facebook, from a bunch of people on Twitter, and you keep hearing it as a human being, you're gonna absorb that and start accepting it as reality. And that is essentially what we have seen happening, right? People are believing in the reality that has been painted for them by the partisan opportunists that they trust. And I think I even said to this guy, I said, and this is the reality of this country, right? And I'll say it to you guys, the audience. Whether you're a left-wing person or a right-wing person, whoever it is that you trust, right? In terms of media, independent guys, whoever it is, whether you're left wing or right wing, I can almost guarantee you're being misled. Straight up. About a lot of things, right? If you're listening to right wing media, way more. But left wing media, guarantee you. There's so many topics that you're so wrong on, right? Because you are in your little bubble and they all repeat the same stuff. They're getting their information from the same sources, and there's a lack of really. I mean, you have certain, it's like the progressives versus the socialists or the communists or whatever, and then you got the shit libs and whatever. So you do have that kind of a dynamic going on, but generally speaking, like, let me give you an example. When we were talking about the virus, where did the virus come from? And it's like lab leak versus natural origin. I can guarantee you that overwhelmingly, whoever is listening, if you guys are on the left, you are being told that it's natural origin. Obviously, it's natural origin. Trump's a lunatic, and this thing about lab leak, there's no evidence, there's no evidence, there's no evidence. Now you're being told a different story, right? Now, because I don't do tribalism, I'm not doing propaganda. I would have been one of the few people that were out there from the beginning that was like skeptical. I'm like, I don't know, man, this natural origin story is not adding up, right? And I was acknowledging that there was growing evidence to support lab leak versus natural origin kind of wasn't going anywhere. It was kind of like they had a theory about natural origin, and it was kind of like, okay, whatever, but I didn't see it grow. But the lab leak stuff, it was like one story after the other story after, and legit stuff, right? But you wouldn't hear that watching, most of these guys in left-wing media, right? Because they're getting their sources. Every morning they log into Twitter, and they're following these partisan actors that they trust, and they're actually doing the real work, right? A lot of guys on Twitter, like, I hope they're getting paid because they're the ones who do the investigation or surface the stories, right? They may actually surface it from mainstream media, but they post something and they put a snappy line or whatever, and it gets a lot of likes. So these left-wing media folks, they log in and they see these tweets that are viral, and then they get on camera and you know what? The natural origin and Trump, and he's talking about this lab leak, and Trump is so stupid. Right, and then they did the what was the other thing? The ivermectin thing, where horse paste, right? That was the thing. Oh, it's horse paste, ha ha ha, horse paste, ha ha. So it's like if you were watching right-wing media during the pandemic, you were getting a ton of lies, a ton of misinformation. You were just getting so much BS. If you're watching left-wing, you're getting a lot of good information, a lot of things that were actually true. But there were also certain narratives that were incorrect. And because there's a lack of independent analysis, it's not like these guys in left-wing media are all, checking things out and validating it. And what does this actually mean? And I'm not sure. No, if it's popular in their circles, in the liberal, Twitter realm, and they see other people who are left-wing that they trust or whatever saying the same thing, then if they're saying this, that's good enough for me. I'm going to make a video too. Hey guys, natural origin, right? I see Mohammadi. I guess we have a communist that's watching. Ricky Rebel Manor. Evan is in the house. Will the lads capture straight before Christmas? Trump has did so many amazing things. I'm sure he has. But here's a sad reality, right? I could sit here and what's the expression, talk until the cows come home. But ultimately, a lot of Americans are just too emotional and too tribal for anything I say to really matter, right? I could sit here and break it down and like, oh, this and that, and Ben Shapiro, this, and I could show all the receipts. But ultimately, they don't give a fuck, right? It's kind of like in one ear and out the other. Oh, okay, whatever. I love Trump though. Trump's good, man. Make America great again. Like that's it, man. Like no amount of evidence, no amount of like whatever. And the same thing with folks on the left, right? If I call out, some of the BS housing policies that, you know, fundamentally are trying to address something serious, and it seems like it has good intentions behind it, but really horrible execution. Like if I come and I critique that, they don't want to hear that, right? They want to hear, they want to talk about how the right wing is lying and they're misleading and whatever, and Trump is this or whatever, and then they want to promote whatever the popular rhetoric on their side is, right? Housing for all, that's the thing. Okay, housing for all, and then there's some bill. The bill could be horrible, but it's a housing for all bill, and it's going to help homeless people, and they're like, yeah, and then I come in as a person giving a good faith critique, and I'm saying, yeah, I appreciate trying to get the homeless people off the street. However, this policy doesn't really make any sense. That's inconvenient. They don't want to. They don't want to deal with that. That's inconvenient, right? It's easier to just be like, yeah, housing for all, than to sit there and actually listen to me break it down and like maybe actually you're pushing for something that's actually not a good thing. Like that's uncomfortable. Like, oh, actually, what? The housing policy is actually not good, and I was misled. Oh man, what should I do? Like, okay, am I supposed to now go challenge my friends, and then they might be think I'm like a right winger or whatever? Like they don't want to go down that route, so it's kind of like whatever. Would you rather Trump? Would you rather Trump be in charge? Right? That's the thing. Ultimately, Americans are too emotional to really give a fuck about the truth. So, and I guess I would say that is my stupidity. Us as human beings, it's like I feel like we're a broken species. Not the only one, of course, but we have this mushy thing between our ears, and it's just a matter of how crazy and how broken we are. So I guess my level of broken is I fully know that almost no one wants to be challenged on their views, right? If you're in a tribe, you're a left wing tribe, a right wing tribe, you're in the enlightened centrist tribe, you feel comfortable there. You feel protected. You feel like you're part of something, right? And you're listening to content that gets you angry about another group, right? You don't want to hear about problems with your group. That's uncomfortable, right? No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that their ideas suck, right? So my ability to articulate and break it down and show the receipts and be logical, whatever, my stupidity is in, me doing that when I know it's like, unfortunately, talking to a wall in this country, right? People do not actually give a fuck. They make a lot of noise and they're posting and virtue signaling online about whatever it is. Oh, free Palestine or whatever it is. Get the immigrants out. But ultimately, a lot of this stuff that they're making all this noise about, they don't give a fuck about. Because let me give you an example. There is a crazy genocide happening right now, in my view. And you hear a lot of noise coming from liberals and left-wing people about how this is wrong and Israel should stop killing those children. But yet, can you tell me how many millions of people are in the street right now protesting against the genocide? Now, there was somewhat of a movement that happened around the election. They were trying to pressure Kamala. I mean, it wasn't nothing, but when you compare what's happening in Gaza to the amount of people that, what was it, like I forgot what they were calling themselves, no contest vote or whatever it was. You know what I'm talking about. There's a group of people that said they're not going to vote for Kamala unless she does something about Gaza or whatever. But the amount of people that were doing even that, it was small, right? So all these people in the left that are talking about, oh, the kids in Gaza and the Palestinians and everything else, yeah, but they don't care enough to actually get out there on the streets, boycott, protest, direct action, right? A lot of noise on social media, a lot of noise on Facebook, But they don't care enough to do that. Right now, Trump, they talk about we're losing democracy and this and that and that. And again, it's such a difference when, again, you're living in reality like me versus the online, right? If you're watching the online, you watch like a Brian Tyler Cohen, then the No Kings protest, it was the biggest protest ever, which I believe it was, right? But that's irrelevant. The fact that we had less than 50 million people in the streets protesting against the end of democracy. Think about that for a second. If you really believe that this is the end of democracy and we're headed into a fascist country, right? And the level of extremes, and you couldn't get 50 million people in the streets, Puerto Rico got way more people in the streets. And they got quick results. They got leaders to step down almost immediately because obviously in Puerto Rico, they cared that much. But in this country, for all the rhetoric and this and that, and, oh, Trump, this and fascist, whatever, where's the putting the money where the mouth is? Look at when Elon Musk was doing Doge. I was early saying, where the fuck are the protests, right? All this talk about Doge and what Doge is doing and Elon is doing this and that online. And I'm like, are you going to do something about it? Then they finally do a protest. And then I'm like, so you only worried about Elon? Like, we see Jeff Bezos, we see Elon Musk, we see Mark Zuckerberg, we see all these fucks that are involved in this thing, endorsing this thing that you claim is, oh, democracy, whatever, and yet you only worried about Elon? Where the fuck was the Elon, Zuckerberg, whatever the fuckface guy is that's doing the big wedding in wherever, whatever from Amazon? Where was that protest? And even now, it's like, if you listen to the rhetoric of what people are saying and you look at the actions, you see a disconnect. They act as if these things are such existential crisis. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these things are not as serious as people are saying they are, because they are. They are that serious. What I'm saying is people ultimately don't give enough of a fuck to stand up and do something about it, right? They'll complain, they'll post on social media, and they might do a little protest here and there. Look at the fact that we had all these people like Adam Mockler, whatever, and you guys know this is one of my pet peeves, right? All this talk about we got to fight back and this and that and end of democracy. And then they don't even support the resistance. We have multiple protests where people are putting their lives on the line in a situation where maybe somebody could attack the protesters and run them over. And Adam Mockler and Luke Beasley, who will travel across the country to go to a Trump rally, right? You have like David Pakman. Oh, he has covered so many Trump rallies, right? So many Trump rallies. He oh, look at Trump says something stupid. And then you're sitting there every day telling your viewers, oh, it's the end of democracy. Democracy is going to, right? And then when the resistance rises up to fight back, you don't even help to elevate them. You're not telling your audience where the next protest is. How now they did it for the King's protest, but I think they got paid, right? All these protests were happening. They weren't getting fully supported. All they were doing is posting some videos after the fact, trying to get money from it by getting their clicks, right? They weren't telling you when the protest is, how to join, giving you a link to the website. But then in No Kings, they did that. But then I look at the links, and it's a special link where they're tracking it. So that means that somebody had to go and probably pay them, or at least push them and say, hey, guy, right, end of democracy, right? You maybe want to help us, like, help spread the message. Like, mainstream media is not really giving us full support. You're independent media. How about you help your audience to fight back? You said democracy is coming to an end, right? We're fighting back. How about you give a fuck about something else other than how many subscribers you have and how much money you can make off your channel? Oh, we're leading right now. We're beating Joe Rogan. Yeah, we got so many views coming in and so many subscribers and the money's coming in and yeah, money. Right? People out there in the streets trying to protest. Oh, well, I was gonna go, but you know, I had some stuff to do. Right? Trump does a protest. Oh, we're gonna go into the protest, the Trump protest. We're gonna be going there. We're gonna be broadcasting live. Luke Beasley, we're gonna be there, right? And you go to the Trump protest. Hey, MAGA guy. Why do you vote for Trump? Don't you know that Trump is stupid? No, Trump's not stupid. Yeah, but Trump said this. He never said it. No, he actually said it. Let me show you on my phone. Right? That's what they want to do. Bullshit. Right? And if these are the thought leaders and they're so unserious, what do you think about the people who are following the thought leaders? How serious are they? Free, free Palestine! Right? Where the fuck is the protest? I'm gonna end on this note. We're a country of 300 plus million people. If you look at the rhetoric about what's happening in this country right now, until we can hit 50 million people in the streets, you're not serious. 50 million people in the streets at a minimum, right? 50 million people in the streets at a minimum. Until then, you're not really serious. Straight up. Because if you really thought democracy was coming to an end and you actually cared, what could be more important than fighting back? Am I wrong? Let me ask you this. If you thought that there was an asteroid that was gonna hit the North America, would you be online posting about it and saying, this sucks, this asteroid's coming, oh, asteroid, go away, asteroid, go away, asteroid, go away? Or would you be motherfucking packing your bags and getting the hell out of Dodge? Right? If an asteroid is coming to hit North America, you would really care. So, you'd probably be taking action first and maybe post about it after, right? You'd probably pack your bags and be halfway across the globe, find the money somehow, rob a bank, whatever. You'd be halfway across the globe, and then when you land, you might be like, hey guys, that asteroid, man, yeah, that's why I left. But at the end of democracy, I'll post some stuff on Facebook, I'll tweet some stuff, I'll like some videos, right? Adam Mockler, yeah, we're gonna fight back against the right-wing machine. Yeah, we're building something for Gen Z. Yeah. How much money we making? Yeah, we're making that money. Yeah, let's fight back. We gotta fight back against Joe Rogan. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that AdSense check. Oh my goodness, what? Hey guys, if you want to help us fight back against the right-wing machine, subscribe, and buy my merch, by the way. Have I lied? The truth is uncomfortable. The truth is not for everybody. Right? All the stuff that I'm saying, nobody wants to hear that. Right? If you're right wing, you want to hear you're on the good side, man. Unlike those crazies in the left. If you're on the left, you don't want to hear that the people you look up to or trust are frauds. You don't want to hear that. Right? You want to hear, oh, the right wing, they suck, and the Trump, he sucks, and, yeah, man, housing for all, guys. Yeah, free, free Palestine, free, free Palestine. Tell me where I lied. Econ Recon is in the house, man. That works. Be cool. That works. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Willis? What is up with this number 2, number 1? Now you're doing it too, Recon? People are zombie puppets. Bring the Astro. Oh, man. CNN is anarchy channel. Holy crap. Hello? How am I? I'm sweaty, man. That's what I am. I'm fucking sweaty. On that note, This is Baby John, the baby comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell, be well. Slaughter gang, we the Glock clan. Poppin' my little nigga tan. I'm back on that bullshit again. I wanna fuck your best friend. I just went about a bend.